I'm not going to bait you into hearing what I have to say here, but there is something that is important to me that I'd like to touch on, and stick around for the ride if you want to hear what I have to say. So I am currently in the process of cleaning up my repost because I've been addicted to social media for way too long. Being addicted to social media can ruin your friendships. It can rub off on other people the wrong way. It can ruin your relationships in a sense by being too overly invested and too addicted to social media, especially if there's anything in regards to political stances. But there is one video here that I want to primarily bring your attention to because I want to just keep the most important and most impactful videos I've ever found on TikTok. I just want to keep the most powerful shares I've ever found and leave them up here for you to digest. And one of them is this one. I don't know if this is came out today because I don't really watch the news, to be honest. But what makes this particular video shocking is that it's even happened at all by mainstream media. And the thing about this is that it goes into the Victorian government of Australia and how the lockdown approach was literally based on a lie. This is a mainstream media story 4 years later after the lockdowns. Now, my channel is all about relationships and stuff like this, but shite like this, that Kim Jong-dan and his cabinet and all this sort of stuff destroy relationships. I am not joking. The political division was just Nazis versus Jews, where you had people who were pro-Kuf literally go out of their way to politically eliminate their opponents. But out of all the places in the world, Victoria was the worst place in the world when it came to the lockdowns, because the whole world was being oppressed. It was a very bad time. But Victoria was one of the worst places you could have ever been in. And I used to watch the live footage of the police constantly shooting non-lethal ammunition at normal people, like the protests, the gatherings. They came in the thousands, and the police were surrounding them with armored vehicles and shotguns, and they were lining up, kind of like the redcoats back in the day, where you just line up and then just shoot indiscriminately at your target. I still have footage of this in my private Instagram account, where it's just and sometimes the police would literally pick up a dude and then body slam his head into the ground and crack his skull and stuff like that. There was zero repercussions for all this behavior. And this video, it's obviously not going viral or anything, but it's very meaningful to me because it just shows that when people call you a fringe conspiracy theorist, and yet 4 years later we have the mainstream media literally saying that everything that the Victorian government did was literally based on a lie, who really was the conspiracy theorist back then? If it's now been proven that the whole lockdown was based on a lie. And of course there are zero repercussions to these government officials. And now in Australia, there's this huge push, including in the UK and other places, to have the internet censored, essentially. You have to upload your IDs. And this was already predicted way back then. And look at where we are now 4 years later. And as far as I understand it, the lockdown was just a testing ground. That wasn't even the worst of it. And as far as I'm aware, in Australia, there have been literal camps constructed by the dozens across the continent of Australia, probably even across other places of the world. But in Australia, it was becoming a thing where these camps were being constructed to house people. And these people were not allowed to leave, otherwise they would be disproportionately mistreated. Now, again, why I bring this up is because, again, this can drive a massive wedge between you and your partner. So I did make a video about a month ago giving you some tips on how to protect you and your family or your relationship from political division. If you would like to look that up, just type in the 8 tips to protect your family from political division. And basically I say, you ideally, if no one's going to do it, at least one party needs to be as neutral as possible. But in saying that, even neutrality can be dangerous because very left-leaning people tend to be very oppressive. But that doesn't mean the conservative side isn't going to be equally as oppressive, because anyone who sees the other person as an enemy is probably going to treat the other person as an enemy. So you need to be as very neutral as possible and bring spirituality into the picture. However, in saying that, I still am a Jehovah's Witness, but I'm not sort of ongoing in like practicing in person. I'm just very laid back, very chill. I'm very open to new thought in a sense. And they were very heavy on the kuf. And so it was very bad to be involved with the Jehovah's Witness organization, because they were strongly pushing and discriminating against their own people for not taking the kuf. So there's a lot of discrimination there if you didn't take the kuf. And so from this video, right, you want your partner to be your ally in crime, in a sense. That's who you want your partner to be. If you had to commit murder, for example, I know there's an actual murder case going on in Victoria right now, which is so crazy. But ideally, you would want your partner to be your ally through the darkest times. And if your partner isn't willing to help you, to be your ally during the dark times, it's going to be very bad. You're going to need to prepare for this dark shit. Not just because we're getting closer to a doomsday in a sense, but for any dark shit. Maybe your partner does cheat. Maybe they have a child with someone else. Maybe some other really fucked up shit goes down. You need to be prepared for that dark shit. This doesn't mean that it will happen, but you want to make sure you prepare for the winter, like the ants. The ants prepare for the winter because they know their winter is coming. And that way, when winter does come, they're prepared. They're not really going to starve to death and die because winter came. They were prepared for it. And we want to do the same for our relationships. And I have another video somewhere down here where this woman talks about how in marriages, she can tell which ones are going to break down. And she goes into the very subtle things, such as, trying to trespass against boundaries way too much, and having parents way too involved in your relationship. And this touches up on the government. Whenever there is any government involvement in your relationship, period, it's going to end. I promise you. I 100% promise you your relationship is going to downfall if there's any type of law firm or government agency involved in your relationship. And so ideally, you want to stay as far away from that as possible.